I fully believe in any relationship, but especially in a marriage, 99.99999% doesn't work. It's got to be 100, like radical transparency to the core if you want that level of connection.
I wouldn't have asked those questions if I had not accepted the mistakes that I had made there. And again, it's that transparency, it's that honesty within yourself to be better than you were the day before.
I think the more that we expect of ourselves, right, the more that we have the capacity to create. But at the same time, the harder we are on ourselves, oftentimes the harder it is for us to be ourselves.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Beardsmen. My name is Spence.
My name is Mink.
We've been friends for nearly 2 decades.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Over the last 20 years, we've had a lot of conversations around what it means to be a man, and we figured we would just jump on and hit record and share some of those conversations with you guys.
Yeah, I think the conversation about what it means to be a man never ends, right? Because we're always growing, evolving, learning. And today we've got a really fun guest on, our buddy Danny Allen.
Look at that stash.
Danny is,
Look at that stash.
we've known you for about 8 years now.
It's been a while.
Yeah, about 6, 7 years, 8 years. And one of the things I love about you, Danny, is like you have lived multiple lives. You've got a very interesting story. You played professional baseball overseas. You played in the Olympics. You then came back, had a career in banking. You are a professional poker player. You started your own business. Obviously, very passionate father, which I'm sure we'll get into. But I think one of the things that's very interesting is we all have a perception of ourselves, and the world has a perception of us. And oftentimes those are very different.
Right.
Right? So we have a perception of you, but my question is like, who is Danny Allen? How do you perceive yourself?
How do I perceive myself? Wow, what a question. Well, like you said, I mean, I've had the opportunity to do a lot of stuff throughout the course of my life, and asking me who do I perceive myself as, a husband and a father and a friend is it. I mean, so, throughout this journey of playing baseball overseas and being in the banking insurance industry, doing the poker thing that I'm currently doing and being a business owner, you learn so much. And all of those things as you're going through that experience applies to being a husband, being a father, and being a friend, being a brother. Yeah, I think that's how I would probably start framing that up.
Yeah.
Love it.
Amazing.
Love it.
Out of those, what's the most important role that you play? You said a husband, a father, and a friend.
It's close between husband and father. I think if I was to be very, very honest, I would say it's probably husband first.
Wow.
I love my wife, Gia, so much. She's my best friend. We're going through life together. We're doing all of this together. Obviously love my kids, love raising my kids. But at some point they'll leave the nest and they'll go do their own thing. And Gia will be stuck with me. So
I think and it's spot on. It's hard to really understand that until you go through the experience of being a parent, how hard it is to put your wife first sometimes because of the natural love that you have for your kids. But my wife and I went through premarital counseling at our church, and our pastor was very clear. It's like, put your wife first. Your relationship, with God has to be first, then your wife, then your kids, in that order for a specific reason. You hit on it. Your kids are going to leave at some point, right? Your role as a father is to raise them so they're prepared for the world. So when they turn 18, whenever they leave the house, they're going to, quote, start their lives.
Yeah.
And then you and G are together going,
Yep.
If you don't prioritize your relationship, you're like, man, I have this roommate for the last 18 years. Like, now we got to get to know each other again, right?
And the crazy thing is, you also have to kind of accept that it's the other way around for her. Like and that's fine. Like, it's the kids first when it comes to what. I mean, you'd have to ask Gia, but I think the answer would be that the kids come first there. But I think those are the roles that we play.
It's super interesting. I know, obviously, I'm the unmarried guy on the show right now, no kids, so I can't speak from experience. I remember I was at a conference with Tony Robbins several years ago, and he shared this kind of concept that you guys are talking about for me for the first time. Growing up, I had a really abusive alcoholic father. You guys know, a lot of trauma, abuse, addiction, and I didn't have the father that I wanted, and so I grew up thinking like, I'm going to be the father I never had. It's going to be the most important thing I've ever done. And I kind of thought, like, coming into the world as a man, that would be the single most important thing that I ever did. And so when I heard Tony say this, he's like, the most important thing you must do is put the relationship first before the kids.
100%.
I felt like I hit a wall. I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And that was the first time I'd ever heard that before. And it's so interesting because the more that you think about it, you lean into it. People used to ask me, like, do you want to have kids? And it used to be, fuck yes, it's the most important thing. But then once I heard that concept and I really started to sit with it, it's like, yes, I do. And the relationship is more important. So like I can't even process what that would actually look like until I find the person that I want to do it with. You know, and I think it's interesting hearing your perspective on where Gia sits, because I would be curious to ask her the same question.
Curious to ask her.
Yeah.
I'd be really curious to ask her, because I totally get what you're saying. That like the mom needs to play that motherly, nurturing role, especially in early adolescence, for kids to like have them feel loved and connected, in that nurturing role that only, in my opinion, a mom can play, especially in the early stage of that relationship. But ultimately, I would be curious to get her perspective, to ask her after the show, because I do believe she should still prioritize you, because in the same regard, when they leave, like if she's dependent on them and they leave, then is she going to be crumbled because now her life that she's been prioritizing is now gone as well?
Yeah.
Right?
And I might be a little off there. I mean, I'd like to think that it's close.
Let's call her up right now.
Yeah, right? Phone a friend.
But what do you do? Be curious. Like, it's really, like I was saying, prioritizing your wife first. You can theorize about that, right? But then when you get home and the kids are fun, Coop wants to go play baseball and whatever, what do you actually do in terms of actionable steps, daily, weekly, monthly, to make sure that you and Gia are staying connected first? Like, what do you do incorporate into your kind of routine to make sure she feels that and make sure that you guys stay connected?
So, with Gia?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's, I don't know if I'd call it, well, yeah, so there are probably some routine pieces here, but so I've got a lot of friends through the poker space that are actually younger than me, and they're going through some of the life stuff that I went through 10 years ago. So I actually get to talk about this quite a bit. And like, you know, I've got friends who are getting married or like getting serious into relationships. And one of the big pieces of advice that I always try to give them is transparency is massive. You know, secrets should go out the window. You know, buddies telling you things or you know, and keeping those from your significant other. Like, it's just, it's not healthy. And so Gia and I have an extraordinary amount of transparency with each other. And I think that that probably started 7-8 years ago, probably around the time I actually met you guys, that we started being super transparent with each other, and you felt a shift within the relationship even then. And Gia and I, we've been together for coming up on 20 years, I think, maybe
Dude,
longer than that. Yeah, I should
bro.
have that written down on my arm somewhere. Because you know, how long have you been married? 15.
If you want,
years.
just say 18, 19, 20, and we'll have the editor edit in the
That's
right
it,
one.
right?
So
Yeah,
when
so
she
14,
listens,
15, 16. But so as far as routines, I mean, one that we really love that we've not been able to do recently just because of the change in weather here in Arizona, but you know, we get the kids down to bed and then we just go sit out back in our backyard in either our rocking chairs or on, you know, we just sit, we get comfy and we talk about our day. Because obviously we're not around each other, you know, the entire time. So, hey, how was your day? What did you get up to? What's going on tomorrow? And typically that conversation will go well over an hour, and it'll even go into the daydreaming side of things. So then we would even, hey, so, you know, what are we going to do next to the house? Or like if we're planning on, you know, doing something with the bathroom, or if we want to redo something in the backyard. But yeah, just sitting and talking and going over our day together that's the routine.
I want to touch on something here, because I think you mentioned the transparency aspect of stuff and how that really changed things. I think it's very easy to have the things that we feel like we can't say or we shouldn't share, whether it's you saw someone at the gym and you're like, damn, she's got a great ass.
Right.
Or it's the other side.
I don't go home and tell Gia that.
It's the other side of things that are like, you know, just like there's insecurities or fears or doubts or certain aspects of things. I had a friend that would say to me, you're as sick as your secrets, you know, and those secrets weigh a lot over time.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, like, when you started doing that, how, like, for anybody listening that maybe feels like they need more transparency in the relationship, how did that like actually change things? And then how did that become easier over time or harder over time?
So I guess the best way to kind of answer that is to give you a bit of background. So Gia and I, you know, we met when I was 22, Gia was 19. So we've gone through life together. We've grown up together, right? Even to the point where, you know, we got married, our first child, Cooper, was born. I was not the most hands-on dad right out the gate, you know, and you learn as you go with this stuff, right? I mean, you can apply what you experienced with your parents and how your dad was. And like, all my memories with my dad, all really start with funny enough, baseball. Like I just remember, you know, him taking us to the park and playing catch with us and doing BP. I don't remember crawling on the floor with my dad, right? I mean, those types of memories for some reason for me are just with my mom and dad. I am sorry if those are things that I should be recalling, but for me, and they're amazing memories, was it started with baseball. So for me, I was not super hands-on early on with Cooper. And so we've been together 10 plus years at this point, and Gia is not sharing with me the fact that I'm not being hands-on, and I'm not realizing that I'm not being hands-on because that's not what my experience was or what my recollection was, right? So, and that caused a lot of friction within the marriage, and we got super close to divorce. We were, I was even in a mental space where I thought, hey, I'm going to lose access to my kid, some other guy, maybe dad one day. Like, I mean, I've gone through that, and something I'm insanely proud about is so many people that know Gia and I. The biggest compliment we tend to get from people that know us is the strength of our marriage. Right? They're like, you guys have such a great marriage. What's your secret? What's this? And it's like, I share this because it wasn't always like that. It's a process. It takes work. And so, here we are at this juncture where the marriage is falling apart. Like, it was falling apart. And so much so that, like, I went to her parents and sat down with them and I was like, listen, I'm going to be divorcing your daughter. I'm really, really sorry. I know this will shake both of us up, but she'll need you guys. Like, I went and had that conversation.
Wow.
And then came to learn that, like, we weren't being transparent with each other. Like, I wasn't sharing with her feelings and thoughts that I was having about our marriage, and she wasn't sharing that with me. And, you don't know what you don't know, right? So I wasn't able to adjust. I wasn't able to learn from things because I wasn't getting that, use a corporate term, but I wasn't getting that feedback, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we made that decision, where it was like, we should always be transparent with each other. Never say things in anger, never make it an argument, never make it a, pointing the finger or, you did this, or it's just, talk to each other. And like, ever since we kind of made that small, I mean, it has a massive effect, but it's such a simple adjustment where it's like, hey, we're best friends. We're doing life together. You can tell me anything, right? And please tell me anything, everything, and that was just such a massive shift. And I mean, we had been together 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years. You guys can edit
16,
that.
17, 18, 19.
But like, we had been together for so long and we were still learning that. But that was a massive turning point.
Spence,
for us.
I just want to interrupt you because I know you and I have had conversations about how this exact topic has transformed your relationship. And so I just want to cue you up because I know you went through a massive change in your relationship by leaning into transparency as well.
Yeah, I mean, it resonates so deeply and it seems so simple in practice, or so simple in theory, but it's like hard in practice sometimes because of just habits, right, that we form for decades of time. And I fully believe in any relationship, but especially in a marriage, 99.999999% doesn't work. It's got to be 100, like radical transparency to the core if you want that level of connection.
Agreed.
Which I've now known you and Gia and the kiddos for multiple years, and I can witness and see, and I've seen the evolution. And I can say that I have the same strength in my marriage with Amanda because of that radical extreme ownership, radical accountability, and honesty, where there's nothing that I will not tell her. Okay. And there's guys that are like, oh man, don't tell your wife, like go do this and don't tell her. It's like, those are micro fissures in your relationship that may seem insignificant today, but compound over time will just build and build and build. And so we gave language to it, Amanda and I, where it's like, find opportunities for small wins, right? Because small wins create momentum. All right. Momentum then will create big change. And so any little thing that you find opportunity to be radically transparent with your partner, if you fuck up in some way, if an ex-girlfriend reaches out to you, if something happens, even though she may never need to know that, I personally believe by sharing that, be radically transparent and honest, that builds momentum and trust. Like, you didn't have to share that with him, but you shared it anyways. Like, holy shit, thank you for that. And it may be a little uncomfortable in that moment, but that short-term discomfort leads to long-term trust and that foundation being indestructible. Yeah. And so it can't be 99.9%. Guys, if you want to be truly connected, it's got to be all in or go all out because
it's really interesting that you guys, that this topic of discussion came up because I have been having a few conversations on this exact topic in my current relationship. And it's so interesting how we make assumptions without communication. And I'll give you guys a very simple example from just what I learned this week, literally. I was having a conversation with my girlfriend and we got to the place of like honesty with each other where we were saying some of the unspokens. And I was like, honestly, like I work so hard during the day, like sometimes it would just be nice if Like when I came home, you had like prepared something or dinner was ready, or you were like, hey, I got a plan for us, let's do this. But I never felt like I could ask for that because that seems very selfish. That's like something that I would want. She's like, I've been wanting to do that this whole time,
Yep.
but you never asked.
Right.
And I want to be invited into doing that. Like, and then we both got emotional because I was like, holy fuck, I made this bullshit story that like,
head.
if
Yep.
she doesn't, if she wants to do it, she'll ask.
Yep.
And if I ask, it's selfish. And she was like, I just want to be invited to do it because I'd love to do it. But he clearly doesn't want me to because every night he says, let's go out and eat somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
And it was like, holy shit. I have just been telling myself a bullshit story that is completely untrue.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine that all of us at times have, you know, it's like the really, you guys can make fun of me in the comments for this. Like the rom-coms where you're watching it and you're like, dude, just say what the fuck you're thinking. And then you're like, Kurt, come on, man. Just have the courage to do it.
Yeah.
And both sides are like thinking the same thing, but neither side is actually stepping into that transparency. Yeah. God, if like, and to your point, like Spence, you know, we've known each other 20 years, been in business for almost 10 years together. And I think you would agree that every frustration or friction point we've had, let's just take the business partnership, right? Because in a way, that is a financial marriage, right?
Marriage,
We've got
100%.
complete financial intimacy, all of our finances, everything is reliant on each other's capacity to show up, to operate the business. And it's like all of the biggest challenges we've had really have come down to us being slightly off or not having the level of clarity around what the other person was thinking as it relates to the business.
100%.
But once we get on the same page, it's like, fuck, okay, we can just throw that assumption or that weight off. Now let's keep running.
And the timing is so important, right?
Yeah.
So to your point, because you let that build up for however long, if you would have just addressed it right on the spot, you guys could have course corrected in that moment. The same thing is
Damn,
true
I
on
would've
any
been having
relationship.
dinners all
Been having dinners
Right.
all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Shit, man.
You could be just walking home to a home-cooked meal every night. What have you been doing?
It's so true. So it's like be authentically you,
Yep.
know who you are and what you want, and then communicate it honestly.
Yeah.
And work together to solve.
Yeah.
And
One thing to add to that?
Yeah.
I judge myself for the things that I would like, but I think, oh, that's selfish, or who are you to ask that, but oftentimes, like if we just let go of the judgment and we're just fucking honest, no matter what it is, like judging ourselves gets us nowhere typically, right? Now we can look in the mirror and see where have we gone wrong. Let me be really honest with myself. Where did I fuck up as a man? Where did I let myself down? And then therefore, you know, friends, family, etc. But it's so interesting because I think as men, we're so hard on ourselves and we judge ourselves so much. We're our own worst enemy at times. And I think that part of the healing process of like really becoming the best that we can be is learning to not judge ourselves, to like acknowledge and embrace the faults and then use those for fuel to get better. But if you never let go of the judgment, then you literally never let go of that pain and you never have the opportunity to learn from it.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so walk us back to the story. I know we double tapped on the relationship there. You and Gia, I mean, we love you guys, and as a couple, your strength, it's amazing to witness. But let's dig back into, because you mentioned baseball. Obviously, you played professionally.
pro baseball,
We talked
Olympics.
before we came on about Cooper. That's his dream.
Yep.
So walk us through some of the story of the baseball career.
Yeah, so I had a phenomenal opportunity super early on. So I was 17, 18 years old, and so my parents are British. I was actually born in the UK. My dad moved his business to South Florida when I was about 6 or 7 years old. So moved over, grew up, baseball, fell in love. That was me. So I get a phone call from the Great Britain Olympic team, because at the time, so we're going back to 2001, 2002 here. So World Baseball Classic didn't exist.
Okay.
Baseball was still an Olympic sport. And I get a phone call from Team GB, saying, hey, we see you have a British passport. We would love for you to come over and
Those cherry picking motherfuckers.
right? Yeah. So it gave me an easier path, right? I mean, trying to compete over here was one thing, but going over to Europe was a different thing. And there were so many cool things that happened through that, because with me having a British passport, I was then an EU player. So in most countries only allow 2 American import players on professional teams because they want to grow the sport. Yep. So I didn't take up a slot as an American ball player. So I was able to use the British passport. So around the age of 18, 19, I fly over to Europe and I get to do baseball. I've played in so many different countries. I mean, Germany, Prague, England, Sweden, got to live in some of those countries and play club level ball there whilst I was going back and forth with the Olympic team. And I got to be part of the conversations as, in fact, we were actually playing in the European Championships in Prague when they announced that London was getting to be the host nation.
What's up, guys? Spence here, co-founder of Live Bearded, and we wanted to take a quick break to let you know that this show is sponsored by Live Bearded. Meek and I started Live Bearded back in 2016. We're on a mission to help beardsmen look, feel, and be their best. So if you find value out of the show, if you have a beard or know someone who does, do us a favor and share livebearded.com. Go to the website, check us out. We've got the best beard products money can buy. All right, guys, back to the show.
So we got to, we went out, we partied that night because you become the host nation. Now you don't have to qualify, right? So, I mean, obviously we were going through the qualify thing, and we had absolutely phenomenal ball players on the team at the time. But to be able to be like, we're in, like, we don't even have to, you don't have to be top 3 in the Euros, or you don't have to go through these qualifiers. So, we got to go and do all of that. And then, of course, I think it was within 2 weeks, the Olympics voted baseball out, and that was where the birth of the World Baseball Classic came from. So, heartache from that, because obviously that changed. I mean, Wait,
they took baseball out of the Olympics.
They did, yeah. So, and I have no idea why, but
So we got the fucking scrubby thing.
oh, bro, you've got
curling,
breakdancing now. You got
breakdancing,
yeah, you've got all kinds of
the horse thing.
Who's in
with the
charge here?
Yeah, right. So
Some man-hating,
right?
sport-loving
Yeah.
bitches. That's
well, baseball. So you go back to 2010 timeframe. Baseball, it was growing, but it was an American sport. It was Japan, America, other countries obviously, but it wasn't global like soccer and cricket and rugby, which is crazy, right? Because we hear rugby and cricket here, and we're
nothing.
like, no way, but.
Worldwide.
Yeah, worldwide, it's just way at the bottom of the totem pole there. So I got to be part of the joy of we're in, and I was in the room when people were like, hey, we're gonna put stadiums here and here, and I'm like, this is all like I got to be part of that process, and then I get to be part of the process of psych, it's not really happening. So and all of a sudden all sponsorship dollars go and all that kind of stuff. So that was
What was that like? I mean, this dream to go
up
in
and
your
down,
home,
just
it's like
absolute. Just up and down, I just crazy. But then the World Baseball Classic, and so that thing gets put together. So, and I got to be a part of that, and I got to be in a lot of the qualifying tournaments. And Team GB is actually an awesome baseball program. I mean, they are actually in the World Baseball Classic now. They were here last time. Actually, some of the guys that I played with are now coaches on the team.
oh, nice.
Show my age a little bit there, but yeah, so just phenomenal. And honestly, and we tell our kids this because Gia, she was born in Bermuda. Her dad was in the Navy, so she was able to experience things outside of the U.S. as well. And I am so thankful that I got to go and do that. And we tell our kids this, and I'll tell anybody this, like, if you get a chance in your youth to go and experience the world outside of America, go and do it, because you're going to get to see how things work, how people are, and you're also going to have a deeper appreciation for what we have here back home, because it is crazy when you start comparing some of the stuff that we take for granted here. So it was awesome. It was definitely part of how I became who I am.
Yeah. What position did you play?
So I started in right field. So I'm a true lefty. So there's not many places you can put me, right? And so I actually started as a catcher, a left-handed catcher, and then I was getting scouted by Miami University, and the scout came to me and was like, dude, you got to stop catching or we will stop looking at you. So I moved to right field. I had a really, really strong arm. And then as I got heavier, I became a first baseman. So about half my career was right field, and then the other half was first base.
Now, the most important question is, what was your hitting percentage?
And
do chicks really dig the long ball?
They
Is
do
that,
dig,
is that
so
how
the
you got
long ball
Gia?
was the important part, right? So no, it was so the first year I went over to Europe, I played in England. I played for the Manchester club there, and I set the single season home run record that year.
Oh shit!
Yeah, so
some bragging
Hold on,
rights.
let me get some ChatGPT action up here real fast.
We get some.
no, I'm sure it's been broken since then. I mean,
How many dingers you hit?
I want to say it was like 16 over like 32 games. I mean,
Solid, yeah, let's go.
So I mean, the seasons aren't as long over there,
Yeah.
but again, it's all integrated within international play and travel, and the weather over there is I think my third game that I played, I got to experience sunshine, rain, and hail all in the same game.
One game.
Yeah, in one game. I think, where were we?
Some bipolar weather.
Liverpool or Bootle, or maybe that's the same. But yeah, so no, it was crazy. But yeah, no, it was awesome. Just incredible
that's
experience.
awesome, bro.
Yeah.
What is maybe a couple of the lessons that you learned during that period of your time playing pro ball that you really use and apply today? You were talking about Coop earlier, and before we got on camera, you were talking about how his dream is to also follow in his dad's footsteps and play baseball.
Yeah.
And you were like, all right, if we're going to do this, we got to make a plan.
Treat it like a job.
And you got
Treat it like a job.
Like, talk about that.
So two parts. So I would say probably the biggest takeaway from me playing abroad, because again, so I played in different countries for different clubs as well as playing for Team GB. So what I wanted to get out of that experience was I want to go live in different countries. So I lived, in Sweden and Germany, and so with that, you're now going and playing for a team that English is not the primary language, right? But I'm also being brought onto those teams to be a leader on those teams. So how I interact with people, how I carry myself, I think kind of came from learning on the job to do that, and not just by doing it through being able to just speak English to each other, right? It's so I think that was probably the biggest thing that shaped me whilst I was over there. And then going back to the conversation about Coops, routine, right? So have a plan. God-given talent is only going to get you so far, and hard work always trumps talent. So, I was sharing earlier before we started this that, Cooper, he loves baseball, and like I had been waiting in the wings. Like my dad was awesome. He did not push baseball onto me or my brothers. We found our love for that on our own, and as much as I had been chomping at the bit to teach and start going through baseball with Cooper, he actually took to football first. He was doing flag football through our church programs and stuff, and he was all football. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. I can get on board with this. And then through a friendship through Evan Longoria, and he played for the Giants, the Devil Rays, the Giants, and then the Diamondbacks. But they're family friends, and just through Cooper, I think meeting him and seeing that level, because obviously Cooper wasn't around for me playing, and what I did in Europe does not compare to what Longo did over here, right? But I think Cooper seeing that really ignited that love for him, and then he comes to me and he goes, "Dad, I want to stop football and I want to do baseball." And like backflips in my head, like, let's go, right? So so we were able to go through that with him, and he's going through the slumps and the struggles and the learning new stuff. And I was just sharing before this started that he comes to me and he's like, "Dad, I want this to work out. Like this is my dream. I want to be a ball player." He's like, "But I just don't feel like I'm getting there." And I'm like, "Well, what are we doing, right?" And so we kind of went through that, and we put in a plan, and the 10,000 hour rule is a big one, right? So that was a big one for me growing up. I read all those books, and like I really tried to adopt that mentality. And so I started teaching him that, and I'm like, "Hey, 100 swings in the morning. Get up a little bit earlier, right?" I'm like, "Well, Dad, I'll be tired." And it's like, "Well, go to bed earlier then. What are you doing at night?" "Well, I'm watching TV." "Okay, what's more important, watching TV at 9 o'clock at night, or go to bed at 8:30 and get up half an hour earlier and do 100 swings off of your tee?" So he did that, and then he comes home from school, another 100 swings off the tee. Then he goes to practice. Then he's doing band work and things like that. And literally, I mean, it's so awesome that the timing, the way this happened. But so he's on a travel ball team as well as his little league team, and within 7 to 10 days of him doing this routine stuff, goes and hits his first out of the park home run. Like it was so awesome. Yeah, so I've got his first home run baseball right next to my WSOP ring. Like I'm so proud. I'm so proud of that home run. So it was just like, and it was kind of a told you so. Like, and it was great, and it kind of solidified that. So he's on a roll.
I can't think of a better lesson at 12. You know? I mean, I remember for me, I was like, I really wanted to play basketball, and I wasn't very good for a period of time. And I didn't really have anybody to teach me like you did. So I was just like, I'm going to do 500, 1,000, like however many form shots a day I can do. And I remember from like my freshman to my sophomore year, I got a lot better. And then I made varsity, and like then I became all conference as a sophomore. And I remember there was one game I'm sitting there, I'm like watching everything. Coach took me out for a quick break, and I'm like, oh my God, all of that hard work I did got me here. I get goosebumps thinking about
Years
it.
later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that lesson that you can, and as a man, God, I can't think of a more important lesson than giving your son the ability to connect effort with result.
Yeah.
And if you can anchor that in, fuck, man, they can do anything.
Yeah.
And to anchor that short of a time window, right? Because
Yeah,
7 to
that's
10
kinda-
days is
kinda
like
low.
kind of outlier, right?
Oh no,
but it's cool
I
to
was like,
feed
God,
it. You're
thank
like,
you.
yes,
Like that is so perfect.
Yeah.
Like that will stay with him.
Because so often it is the reps and the work and putting in the early days and the late
Yeah.
nights, and it takes time, and it could be a year or 2 years until you actually see the reward.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of guys quit because it's like, fuck, I'm putting in the work, but it's not happening. It's like, well, yeah, it needs to be a longer time horizon most times to actually see the results, and people give up.
Yeah.
Cooper fortunately got some results in like
Yeah,
7 to
just
10
went-
days.
Yeah, right.
So hopefully he anchors in the same mindset, right?
Yeah.
Put in the work, get in the reps,
Right.
get up early, stay up late, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
dude, I love that.
No, and it's good too because then we had a setback. So literally hits that home run. And so that weekend, I want to say he went like 5 for 6 that weekend with a home run, a ground rule double, another double, a couple of singles, some RBIs. Like he had
What
a
are you
great
feeding this kid, bro?
right?
He's eating his protein. He's eating his protein, bro. Let's go.
We had this conversation. No, so that happens, and then like a week later, he fractures his ankle or fractures the bottom of his foot, pops the growth plate open, and has a medium ankle sprain. So he's in a walking boot right now, and now we're back to the down and why has this happened? And so now it's like back into the life lesson side of things, and it's like, okay, well, God is giving you an opportunity here. Like we can't look at this as a setback, right? This stops you in what you were doing right now. But one of the things that we knew that he needed to work on. So Coops is a catcher, which I love because catching was like that was my passion. But because I was left-handed, I had to give it up. And so I was always like, man, if I have a right-handed kid, if I have a right-handed son, he's going to play third base or catcher for sure. And like I didn't even push that on him, and he just loved it. And like it's great back there for anybody who caught in little league or high school, right?
Yeah.
You're back there, you're controlling the game, right?
Yeah.
But one of the things that is holding him back is his arm strength. And it's not so much the strength, it's the angle that he's throwing right now. So, sat down with him and there's tears and upset and I can't play and like what am I gonna do? And it's like, okay, well, God's giving you an opportunity here now. Like we kind of figured out what you need to do with the hitting and stuff. So we can shelve that for a second, but it's your ankle, right? And the weakest part of your game is your arm slot. So let's work on that. Let's focus on that. And so, again, teaching life lessons, and it's almost like if you're given lemons, right? It's like, look at it as what can I do here to grow and be better even when there's this massive setback. So now it's just focusing on that arm strength, right? And I kind of broke it up. I was like, hey, you go to practice and, there's 30% throwing and 30% hitting and 30% fielding and, 10% whatever. But it's like now we've got an opportunity to go 100% arm strength. Like for the next 4 to 8 weeks, is what we've been told. He has another X-ray in a couple of weeks. We can focus on your arm strength. Like how awesome is your arm going to be in 8 weeks time? And then we'll apply all the other stuff that we've learned and done when you're ready to hit the field, and go full throttle again. So yeah, lots of life lessons, and man, being a parent, it's
so great. Just
yeah.
Get ready. I wanna go back to what you're saying. Like when you talk about you wanted Cooper to play baseball, it was your dream, but it wasn't necessarily his.
Right.
He wanted to play football, and you as a father, and as a father now, I'm like trying to prepare myself for this idea of like you don't reproduce yourself in your kids. You produce children, and they may or may not take up interests that you have. Right? We grew up playing basketball. Like I would love Dax to play basketball.
Yeah.
But maybe he's a baseball guy. As a dad, you were able to kind of like check yourself and say, no, like let me not force baseball on Cooper. If he wants to play football, I'm gonna like let him go in that direction.
Yeah.
And he's came back around to baseball, so you're stoked.
Yeah.
But give us some like feedback on what like where your head's at and allowing yourself to not project what you wanted for him and allow him to really step into what he wants to do. Because I feel like as a parent, it's easy to be like, oh, I'm gonna put my kids in sports, but what if my son isn't into sports and he's into music or theater, whatever he's into, right? Like I can't control that. And I have this conversation with myself. Like, I don't want to force my beliefs on him in terms of his interests and stuff. Like, obviously, values, standards, those things. But what does that look like for you and your kids?
I think it's probably just, you want your kids to be happy and you want them to be successful, right? So you've got those two things is probably at the top of that mindset. So for me, it was, and you can you'll find that enjoyment in watching your kid thrive and succeed in whatever they decide to do. Like, Gibson, my daughter, who we've not really talked about, so hey, babe.
Gibson, we love
No,
you.
but like, she came to us a few months back and she wanted to do gymnastics. She was like, I'm gonna be in the Olympics and do these gymnastics. And it was like, I did do gymnastics for a hot second back in high school, but that was
Totally
high school?
Totally
yeah, I
different
did.
reason,
No,
though.
totally different reasons, and the kids will listen to this. So yeah, it was to stay
Really
Jacked.
fit,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
shape,
super-
and work
super
on
fit.
flexibility.
Yeah, flexibility.
but like,
for sure.
and hearing that, it was like, that's awesome, and I can't wait to watch that. And like, if she does pursue that, like, I'll get into gymnastics, and it's
Totally.
like, you're happy when your kids are happy and when they're being successful in the things that they're passionate about. And it is weird. It's because like up until being a parent, it's the things that are driving and motivating us is the things that we wanted, or right. But now it's you're seeing your kids want to do this, and I don't know. It's kind of hard to put into words, but it's just this feeling, right? It's like you want to see them be successful.
Yeah.
You want to see them be happy.
Totally.
And it's like, I the football thing with Cooper, it was like, yeah, I'll watch him go tackle the shit out of people and, make great plays. And like, you enjoy that. And it's just, it's great when it aligns with the things that I was passionate about. Right. Cause then you can really pass that stuff down because, I played football, my freshman year in high school and then stopped. And it's like, I don't know enough about it. I mean, I watch like everybody else does on Sundays, and like I am a big football fan. Ravens are my team, and love watching Lamar Jackson play and stuff. But like, I can't teach that to my kid, and it's like, so I'll watch somebody else teach that, and I'll enjoy that. But being able to be the main part that's teaching him through baseball is incredible.
That.
So
That's awesome. Curious to go back. I was kind of hung up on this because I'm wearing my actions over words shirt, and something he said on the baseball journey when you're playing overseas was he said that there's a natural language barrier, right? You were speaking English, they were speaking local language, right? And that forced you to not step in as a leader because you were brought in as a leader, but you couldn't come in with your words and take leadership because there was a language barrier.
Yeah.
So by default, it forced you to lead through action, right? And you had to step up and lead. And I feel like actions over words is one of our values here at Live Bearded. As men, I feel like part of being a man is by taking action and earning that respect. Being a leader because you earn it, not because you come in with a title and you tell them, hey, do this, do that, but like stepping in and showing through your actions what it means to be a leader or a ball player or whatever role. Right. Talk to me through that experience a little bit. I'd love to expand on that.
So I mean, I'll definitely clarify. So Europe is phenomenal with their language stuff. So I mean, I think every kid by the time they're 12 knows English. So I mean, the language was still there. It wasn't a massive barrier, but again, going back to the way you carry yourself and the way you follow through with what you're doing, right? I'm not going to say that I didn't party all the time, but like, guys on the team, hey, let's go party. And it's like, got to be a leader on the team. We got a game tomorrow. So it's just, it's through those actions, right? And just showing what that's supposed to be. Not to mention like you're one of the American ball players that have been brought in, and America's, where that sport came from. All the ball players are better in America, right? Is kind of the mentality. Not so much anymore, right? But everybody's looking to you as he's the American ball player. So it's like, this is how we conduct ourselves, right? This is what we do. This is our work ethic in the gym. This is what we do on the field. This is how we carry ourselves. And going back to what I said, I think that really helped almost elevate the way I carried myself as a person just automatically through that experience. And then I've carried that with me ever since.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like one of the things that's maybe not talked about as much as it relates to like the experience of being a man is the burden of performance, right? Like as men, I think obviously we feel the same way, but it's like the protection and provision that we have to provide. Like that's our responsibility in family and in life. And there's a burden of performance to some degree that we all have. And it's no clearer than in professional sports, right? It's like as cut and dry, perform or you're gone.
Right.
And so I think there's this idea of like a finite game and an infinite game. And so a finite game is something that has a start and a stop point, right? Baseball, basketball, football, all the sports we love to play. Any type of game that has a clear frame and container is a finite game. And it's very easy to know whether you're performing or not in that construct. Life is an infinite game. There's no start or stop point. We don't actually know who thinks what or what. Everybody plays by a different set of rules or beliefs or values. And so there isn't this clear construct of what performance looks like. And sometimes we don't understand the burden that we carry to perform. And so I'm just curious your guys' thoughts individually on how you approach that burden of performance, how you continue to keep challenging yourself to perform. For me, I think it's very simple. It's like, did I do what I know I need to do, regardless of how I feel? And am I taking constant progress or movement? Like, am I moving forward? Mm-hmm. But I'd just be curious to talk about this idea of like work ethic and the burden of performance that we have, specifically as fathers too, right? I heard something that was like, the greatest sin that fathers commit against their sons is telling their sons that they can be anything that they want, but then themselves not demonstrating that they are striving to. So just that itself is a burden of performance, totally. Right? So, hey guys, Mink here, and I want to take a quick break from the conversation to tell you about our sponsor, Live Bearded. Spence and I started Live Bearded in 2016, and our mission from day one has been simple. We want to help beardsmen look, feel, and be their best, both with their grooming and in life. And with that, that's one of the reasons why we started the Beardsmen, because we love having these conversations about what it means to be a man today. So if you have a beard, if you want to participate in this conversation and you want to look and feel your best, go to livebearded.com, check out our products. I guarantee you will love them. And if you don't, we've got a 365-day money-back guarantee. But I promise you will. So check us out, livebearded.com. Now let's get back to the show.
Yeah, the sports analogy is the easiest one to anchor back for dudes, I think. It's just that the performance, right? And it's like, I do believe it's anchored into our DNA, who we are biologically as men to be competitive and have that burden of performance. And when you're young, I think the difference that I've experienced is just where you prioritize and like where the scoreboard is, right? When you're young and you're selfish and you're a boy, it's like, well, it's the world revolves around me, and it's maybe sports, and you have that performance and you have that camaraderie, teamwork there. But as I'm aging and becoming a husband and a father, it's like, well, now I need to perform for myself. I need to perform within my relationship, my marriage. I need to perform as a father and how I show up. I need to perform within the business and the team. And so that the performance doesn't change. Like, it's just anchored into who I am. It's just now you're just balancing how, like, where you're distributing that. More of right? There's more of it, more responsibility. But that doesn't mean you can like neglect any area or it all crumbles, right? But it's just taking on more and more responsibility, which ultimately part of being a man is being strong, having strength physically, to have energy to carry through the day, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, so you can carry it all and be willing to carry it for your family so they don't have to carry it, right?
Yeah.
And when the shit goes crazy and there's fires to put out in the business or in the relationship, like, you have the control, the strength, the resilience to be able to process it and move forward and not let it just completely crumble you.
How do you carry it when it's like, when there's more shit added? And as a business partner, like, I see how much shit you routinely carry, both in the business and then personally. And I would say you're someone who's extraordinary at carrying a lot of burden of performance. So how do you work through that? Because all of us as guys at some point in time, and I know you and I have had one-on-one conversation where we're like, fuck, bro, the business, like, I don't know what to do.
Let it
I'm
burn,
feeling
fuck it all.
Motherfuckers just got me. My checking account is freaking at zero.
That was something else.
So we all have that weight at times. But then, like, the question becomes, how do we carry it?
Yeah. You jump in, bro. Let's hear it.
Well, so I've got a very broad answer, but it's the best one that I can give. So for me, on all of that, and this is in all aspects of life, the shield that I carry around with me, and I'm gonna go the God avenue here.
100%.
And I'm gonna say this: God is not an asshole. He's never gonna challenge us with something that He knows that we can't fail with. And that is the shield that I carry around with me in all aspects of life, whether it be as a husband, being a father, within business. So for me, it's just everything that's thrown at us. Things are gonna. Sometimes things are super easy, right? And that's great, and we love those days. Like, I love those days.
I miss those days.
Yeah. Oh God. Right. But then there's the days that we're putting out fires and we're going through it. And so for me, when you ask, how do you get through this? It's that shield that I carry with me, is that, nothing has been put in front of me that I can fail at. I can give up. I can absolutely give up. And that would be on me then. But, God is never going to challenge me with something that He knows that I can't fail with. And that is something that I tell myself on a daily basis. And that's my shield. That's my suit of armor. That's how 100%. I work through those types of situations.
Hard agree. I couldn't agree more. I think the only thing I'll add is one of my favorite sayings is pray like it's up to God and work like it's up to you.
Yeah.
So know that God will ultimately always protect and provide, but then also earn it through your action, through your work. So I will just step up, and as long as I don't quit, I can't lose. You know, and how do you eat the elephant? One bite at a time. So just like focus on what's in front of you, focus on what you can control, start chipping away at it. And as long as you don't quit, you can't lose.
Yeah. I know for me, I have always been someone who's like very intrinsically motivated. I grew up in this kind of like lone wolf mentality. Like everybody was telling me I can't do something. So it was a fuck you, I'll do it. I'll figure it out. And so whenever I was feeling that overwhelm, you know, I've went through seasons of like belief in God, spirituality, like what is the purpose of life, blah, blah, blah. Like, what do I actually believe? You know, and I've come full circle to believe what you guys believe. And I know that nothing is put on my plate by God or the universe or whatever language you want to call it that is beyond my capability of working through and solving. I actually believe that life is happening for us. So all of that shit that we're dealing with is actually a calling from our creator to grow. But the point that I want to make is like, I think as men, we have to find something beyond ourselves that becomes the reason why we keep moving forward when it gets very difficult. You know, and God is a very simple one. If you have a different belief structure, that's okay, but finding something that calls you forward. And for me, it's always been little sayings or quotes or things like, circumstance doesn't create the man, Anthony, it reveals him to himself. How is this shitstorm revealing who I am? Fuck, do I like who I am today? Yes, no. How can I get better tomorrow? Don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. You know, so it's like, I think for me, it's been a combination of believing in something greater than myself and contextualizing that in a way that gives me faith that what I'm experiencing now will make me more. But then day to day, it's like, just those little affirmations, right? You have them like, fuck, don't wish this was easier, bro. Just go get better. Just go get fucking better.
Who do you need to become?
And that goes back to something you were saying earlier is, you know, and transparency and honesty, even with yourself, right? And like what you're saying there is, you know, go be better. You like own what you're going through, own the mistakes you made, you know, with the business that I have. So no tilt poker tables, right?
Shameless plug.
No, I was going to go there. I wanted to go there, so I'm glad it's finally here.
If you want to have a good guys' night, if you like poker, notiltpokertables.com.
The best.
This guy right here will make you the most beautiful custom designed poker table. And if you invite us, we will take your money while we play.
That's it. So we'll give you a chance to get the money back from the table, right? But no, like we're going through something right now financially, and like I've had to really sit down and own some of the mistakes that I've made, right? And you and I have had lots of conversations around this. And, you know, this was a business that started out of my garage, right? And I kind of fell into this passion and I was like, oh my God, we can turn this into a business. And then we turned it into a full, incredible business. I mean, we do casinos, card rooms, you know, massive contracts. We do tables for celebrities. Like we have seen immense success. I now have owned the mistake that I made, and that is we were a mom and pop shop out of the garage. We grew very quickly, and I didn't make that adjustment. And I didn't know how to do that. And I you know, and that then becomes, okay, well, should I have brought somebody else in? Should I, you know, and those were the mistakes that I made. And it was a hard realization to put on myself, where it was like, fuck, I kind of fucked up here. Like we continued running this thing. I continued running this thing as a mom and pop shop, whereas I should not have done that. I was more concerned about the runway that we had given ourselves, right? Hey, we've made all this money. We've now got this runway. This business could survive for the next 5 years if we didn't take another sale. This is fantastic. That was the wrong mentality. And it's like, accepting that and realizing that has allowed me to be able to grow as a business owner. It's allowed me to ask different questions. I've reached out to you, Mink, and asked you questions within the business. And it's like, I wouldn't have asked those questions if I had not accepted the mistakes that I had made there. And again, it's that transparency, it's that honesty within yourself to be better than you were the day before. Yeah,
I think two things I heard there. One is just radical responsibility, right? Yeah. It's like, my life is my fucking fault. I fucked this up. But also, I think this is where grace comes in. Like, we don't know what we don't know.
Yep.
I had a mentor tell me very early on, he's like, Anthony, the number one responsibility of an entrepreneur, you guys know what it is? To make enough money to pay for your mistakes while you're learning how to become an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You know, and my first business, I went bankrupt. Put $50,000 on a credit card, put another $50,000 on a personal line of credit, lost all 100 grand, 23 years old. Attorney's like, just file bankruptcy and start over. Okay, cool. The next turn of events, I started making some money, got to the point where I had a 7-figure affiliate marketing business. I'm like, fuck, I'll never have to worry about money again. Holy shit.
Guess what?
I got hundreds of thousands of dollars in my account. What do you know? I lost everything again, had to start over, literally went back to having over $100,000 in debt when we started Live Bearded. And we don't know what we don't know. And that's where the grace comes in, to be able to be like, you know what? I think maybe one of the best lessons I've learned through just the journey of life is the ability to try to give ourselves grace as men. Like we're our own worst enemies. We beat ourselves up so much. I think the more that we expect of ourselves, right, the more that we have the capacity to create. But at the same time, the harder we are on ourselves, oftentimes the harder it is for us to be ourselves.
Yeah.
And so we have to understand that difference. Like we got to push it really hard and demand a lot, very, very high standards. But if we're too harsh with ourselves, like we just burn out.
Yeah.
And I would just say for anybody who's listening, like it's a long road, it's fucking hard, and you are going to fail. And all of us in this room, like we've got a lot of success with Live Bearded. Failures look different, but they always come and they always get like, one of the big lessons that I think Spence and I have both learned is at every new level you reach, you think like, and let's just use business contextually. It's a very simple example, right? Like, oh my God, if we could get to $1 million in sales, like all these problems would be fixed. And then you work your ass off to get to $1 million in sales. And you're like, wait a minute. Now my problems could only be solved by getting to 5 million or 10 million. And my point is not that like you get greedy. It's just that every new level demands a new level of yourself. And there's new problems and challenges and things that you have to work through. And so it's like the game never gets easier and the road never gets smoother. It's just you get stronger and your awareness or your perspective becomes broader so you can create more.
Yeah.
And one of the frames that I think about is like, I don't want bad shit to happen. I don't want the challenges, the mistakes to happen. But like, if I'm honest, I know a storm is coming in some area.
They're always coming.
Yeah.
And how do we be like that the bison that runs into it instead of everybody else that runs away from it?
Yeah. No, it's so a CD or not a CD. Wow, an album that I'm listening to a lot at the moment. Not a CD.
Just play it off like you got this old school retro car with a CD player.
Maybe you and Gio have been married for 45 years. How old are you?
You're right.
Dude, where are the grays at?
Right, they're in there. 40. I'll be 42 this year, or 43. Somewhere in there. Once you hit 40, it kind of just like... No, so there's an album I'm listening to right now, Jelly Roll, and there's a song on his new album, and the opening lines to it, which, like, I want to get this tattooed, because it's just like, it's such a great... Again, it goes back to the mindset and kind of what you were just saying there. And the opening line is, I prayed for calmer waters, God sent me taller waves, I didn't understand it till I wound up finding strength. And like, that is so powerful, because we are always going to go through storms, and like, you're going to hate it and you're going to be like, why is this happening? But then when you come out of the end of that storm, you're stronger, you're better, smarter, whatever. But it shapes us, and it makes us better.
Yeah, there's I mean, some of these things are so cliche, but it's like a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor.
Skilled sailor, yeah.
And it's like, I think as men, it's our responsibility to be as skilled and as capable as possible.
Totally.
Yeah.
And the only way that happens is by getting our asses kicked over and over and over. And so how do we change the frame from I'm getting my ass kicked to holy shit, I'm getting better?
And how much better is your life going to be versus saying, wow, woe is me, I'm the victim, this is happening to me, and you're miserable all the time? Because the problems aren't going to go away.
No.
They just come in different forms.
Right.
And so it's like, if you can accept that they're coming and then change your perspective on it, not only will you develop the skills, but you're going to just live a happier life because... you're not the victim. I'm
going to sound cliche again and throw out another one of those like cliche kind of statements, but it's like, and I can't remember exactly how it's said, but it's that saying where it's like, you were praying for these things, 3 years ago, 5 years. Go back 5 years.
The problems we have today.
Yeah, the problems we have today are the things we were wishing for 5 years ago.
Yeah, totally.
Right. And it's so true. And it's just so that's another thing. Like, we're all going through the shit together, right? We're all going through. Everybody has their own set of problems. Everybody's going through different stuff. But if you take a minute and take a deep breath and think about where you are and where you were and what you were after, what you were chasing, typically it all lines up, right? I mean, not always, but a lot of the time.
I think this is a good segue into poker a little bit, because I think you, being a professional poker player, winning a couple of big tournaments, and being able to actually earn a living doing that, you're going to experience a lot of the storms, a lot of the ups and downs.
We call them swings.
A lot of the swings.
Swings.
How, like, talk to us a little bit about poker, how you got into that.
Okay.
You're on Instagram, the Poker Beard, so that's really what you're known for.
Yeah.
Sponsored by Live Bearded, of course.
Of course.
And that's not an ad. Maybe it is.
Little plug.
Yeah.
Yeah, give us a perspective of, like, how did you get into poker, and how do you ride those swings?
It's tough. So the swings are tough. So my dad actually had us playing with nickels, pennies, and dimes instead of poker chips as kids. That was poker has always been in my life at some level. I think I really gravitated towards the professional poker scene when I came away from sports, because it's still a sport. It's still competitive, like you were saying earlier. As men, like we want to be competitive, and poker is such a phenomenal game. It really, really is. Once you get down to the root of what poker is and how it's played, and it's funny. Like my least favorite subject in school was math. But I was always good at it, and how that is applied to poker is crazy. So, and both my kids have, they're 2 grade levels above where they're supposed to be in math, because they know how important it is to poker. And I'm always talking about percentages and outs, and it's funny. So I'll share this. I was playing in a tournament last weekend, and within 5 hands, I get pocket aces 3 times, including back-to-back. It's never happened before. I've never gotten pocket aces back-to-back, and I've never had pocket aces 3 times within 5 hands.
He's on a heater.
I lost twice with that hand, by the way. So I've got my poker crew. We keep each other accountable. We walk through hands and stuff and play. And I sent it to my buddy Jonah, and I was like, dude, what is the percentages on this? And we did the percentages. Getting pocket aces 3 times within 5 hands is 1 in 10 billion. It's just that's how crazy. Yeah, it's like 0.000058 or some. It's absolutely wild. But so I got into poker, I think, because I still wanted or needed some level of being competitive, and something that tangibly drove me with a trophy at the end of it. And people ask, all the time, well, you a cash game player or are you a tournament? Because you can do both, but they're 2 very, very different games. It's a different style of play. And I'm more a tournament player because I'm making the money is nice, right? But it's trophies, rings, bracelets. That's what I'm going after, and it's because of that competitive nature within myself. And I won my first WSOP event last year, and it was such a validation and like everybody's like, oh, what did it feel like to win that? And it didn't feel like what I thought it was gonna. It felt better, but it didn't feel that way for the same reasons that I thought it would. And it was more of a validation of the hard work that I put in, just like a baseball player winning the World Series or a football player winning the Super Bowl, right? So yeah, it's the competitive drive, I think, and it's you got to stay mentally sharp. You've got to stay. You can't relax. You can't, because if you do that, you'll make mistakes. I made one of those a few weeks back, a really bad one too, and those hurt a lot. But they're lessons, and it's just like with life. Like you learn these things, and then you carry those scars with you, and hopefully you get better from
so
that.
I had a question. It's really applicable to poker, but then also life.
Yeah.
You said you made a really bad mistake in poker. I'm guessing there's 2 very specific types of losses. One of them is you did everything right, and the motherfucker just got lucky, and there's nothing you could have done.
Got beat.
And then there's the other one that's like, I misread this, I fucked up, I have to eat this. Okay. Life has the same thing too.
Yeah.
How do you approach those in the poker sense? And then how does that apply to life?
So I think the way, because I do poker coaching, and I'm working with this guy, Chris, and we talk about this because he is still very, very emotional when it comes to poker, right? Good poker player, but he allows his emotions to take over in a lot of spots. And what I've said to him is what you just said there, right? There are two types of outcomes that go on when you're really focusing within poker. There's I did everything right. I got him to commit his chips, all of his chips when I was ahead, and then I just got unlucky, right? And emotionally, you've got to be able to wear that, and you've got to be able to know that like you did everything you were supposed to do, right? And sometimes it just doesn't pan out on to the next one, because that's where you hear about poker players. You've ever heard the phrase tilting, right? He tilted off his chips, right? that's where that happens, is you do everything right, and then you allow yourself to get frustrated that you did everything right, but you just got unlucky. Like, and now you're going to blow, dust off the rest of your chip stack. Like, you're just going to get rid of it, and now you're out of the tournament. And that doesn't make any sense. And I used to be that type of player, and like my poker coaches, like they were able to put into me, they were like, listen, if you do everything right, then it stings for a minute, wear it for a sec, but like move on. You did everything you were supposed to do. You want that situation every time. If you're getting your chips in the middle and you're 90% favorite to win, you're going to win nine times out of 10. You want that every time. You just need to accept that 1 out of 10 times, it's not going to go your way. And I guess you could kind of apply that to life, right? Mm-hmm. The other side of it, and making a mistake, again, being transparent and honest with yourself and being like, man, I fucked that up. Like that was not the move. Why did I do that? Like, and you work it backwards. And now, just like in life or within business or within a relationship, look at what you did and look at the mistakes that you made and then learn from it and don't do it again. Yeah. Right. So I guess.
Yeah, I love that. I think in this, it's like when you're talking, it's like you have a guy that in life, things don't go his way. Yeah. And then rather than learning how to dust it off and just be like, you know what, I did the controllable thing. I did everything that I could. He goes on a bender, gets upset, cheats, like does whatever, and he doesn't have a way to suppress that, or express that emotion, process it, etc. So it's super interesting, and I think ultimately being able to manage the wins and the losses like that is critical, because there's going to be things that we have absolutely no control over, and we just have to take it on the chin and learn from it. I think. For me, I think the ability to turn your failures into lessons and then apply those lessons is the name of the game in life.
They're the best. They're we hate to say it, they're the best ones, right? Yeah. They're the one they hurt the most, and when you're in it, you're in the shit and you hate it. But 10 days, 2 days, 10 days, a month, 10 years from then, like. You're wearing those mistakes, and as long as you've learned from them, they're the best ones.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of my greatest mistakes, biggest mistakes, are my greatest strengths today because of that, right? Yeah. That only works if you actually do the self-audit, the reflection.
So how did you get to that point? Because most people run from their biggest mistakes.
Correct. If you address it head on, a radical transparency with yourself, and say, hey, let me be humble here. Let me reflect. Who am I? What are my actions? What are my standards? How do I, again, the self-audit, self-reflection, to use it as a lesson and not then just let it spiral and continue. Right. But you have to take it head on, and you have to be humble enough to say, okay, maybe I made it. Like, what mistake did I make? How do I learn from this and really own it? But if you run from it, then you're just going to circle back. It's going to cycle back, right? You're not going to learn from it. So
well, then you made the mistake and you got nothing out of it, right?
Yeah. So. One final question for you as we wrap up. We like to ask everybody, what do you believe it means to be a man in the world today? What values? What principles? What is masculinity, or what is manhood in the world today?
I think that really is to present your best self. I love being able to help others. I think that's a massive thing. If you can put yourself in a position to be able to make others better or help them achieve things. So I think just be a good Christian, be a good spouse, be a good father, mother. I mean, just make a mark, make positive marks, and be a positive impact on those around you, I think would be my answer there.
Bias for action and service.
Yeah.
Amazing. Where can people find you, follow you, watch the poker journey, buy a poker table?
Yeah. So my Instagram is probably the best place, and I try to connect with everybody who reaches out through there. So the Poker Beard is my Instagram handle. We also have No Tilt Poker Tables through Instagram, notiltpokertables.com. If anybody was interested in looking,
go check them out.
Yeah, check us out. Yeah, doing a lot of cool stuff. Actually, we just did a project with Jelly Roll. We're about to do a project with Sugar Sean. We're doing a table for Brantley Gilbert. Like, we've got a lot of cool stuff. So it's not boring. Like our socials are really, really exciting.
You outfitted the casinos here.
Yeah, we just did. Yeah, we did talking
card rooms in Texas, all over the place, right?
Yeah,
let's go.
Yeah, it's not boring.
Yeah. Well, dude, it's been an absolute privilege. No. Words are hard to have a conversation with you. Get to know you, man, over the last 7-8 years, just to witness your growth as a man, as a father, as a husband, as an entrepreneur. It's been an honor just to get to know you and call you a brother. So thanks you for coming on and sharing time with us today. I
love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you for tuning in. If you watched it this far, please hit the like and subscribe button. Make sure to go give this guy a follow, and we'll be having another conversation here real soon. We don't really have a signature.
I was waiting for that.
We need an official
Live
sign
bearded.
off. We need an official sign off. So if you have any ideas, just drop us a comment below and let us know so we can actually
that? Yeah.
look more official.
Yeah.
But no, great conversation, guys. Many more
No, this is
coming
great.
soon.
Hell yeah.
Let's go. Thanks, bro.
Yeah, of course.